you and me. So let's talk about relationships, shall we? How do empowering women handle relationships? Well, for one, I'm a 5D mystic, empowered woman, and I'm in the Enlightenment Soul age group, and I'm a functional adult. So I have healthy self worth. I know how to love myself first, and that's because I have a lovely, securely attached body. Thanks to having a mother who raised me with secure attachment, and I'm a differentiated self, so I didn't lose my 3-year old, and I have a twin. So I was determined in the womb already to be in that spirituality lifestyle, which is living a life of meaning and connection beyond the solo self. So I love being an inner child, and that's why you get to hear voices, stories, perspectives, and more for personal development and self help for people who have a window welcome to their emotions. Okay, so we do emotional regulation, accountability, and also awareness, and that's through self awareness as well. Left mode of your brain is the verbal part. Thank you, Daniel Siegel, for teaching me about this. And the right is your nonverbal. So everything that comes up. And if you cannot handle, your window of tolerance explodes or expands. No, the window of tolerance expands if you work with it. If you don't and you're overwhelmed, we have non-bilateral integration. So we don't have to talk about that one right now, but I'm attachment and trauma informed, and I continue my educational courses because I support people seriously. My lovely mysticism continues to accompany me and will, and so I'm a holistic practitioner, but you can just call me Maria, and podcast host, right? So we do a lot of content on YouTube and the podcast audio versions. Once we get to 1K here, we'll have membership content, which involves Ask Maria. It's like a Dear Abby. So you treat it like an opinionated columnist thing, and it stays online for all. If you want to do something specific, personal development related, that's something you want to inquire about. And I do have a landing page with the inner growth mindset, which is curated as a course, but I have the main modules for free online, and the beginner's journey is on Udemy, while the intermediate and advanced has to still be put online. So to be continued, and a master class is in the works in my brain, as well as books, IHP books. Okay, so that's just random notes for anybody who's new, and we're gonna get started again. So, woo woo pseudoscience, by the way, because I am a person who knows sciences matches with spirituality and dispels myths. So, spiritual bypassers, which we have out there, 4D, 3D, like we have the mentals of mental health, the ones who don't want to support. Because if you want to support mental health, it means you know how to speak to people. You also know when somebody's projecting. You don't have to put up with projection. Okay, so when I say whining, I'm not saying that somebody's trauma should be minimized, but there are people, they don't take their trauma therapy stuff seriously. In fact, they leave it and then they say they don't want to do personal development. Or they say, humans are all fucked up, so why bother continuing with journaling and mindfulness and things that my therapist told me to do? And that's because your body would love to be back home to its secure attachment, restorative embodiment. So if you want to get out of suffering in here, the hellhole that suffering is, because gut wrench, torn apart, feeling lonely, feeling defective here doesn't feel good. That's not your inner well-being. In fact, you're not in your ventral vagal nervous system. Okay, so that's a side note. I take inner well-being and outer well-being seriously, and being yourself begins with the inner growth mindset and continues with my added educational background. Again, attachment trauma informed. So we also build 5D relationships. 5D, you'll hear it being said again and again and again, because it's Christ consciousness, which is where we're at, which are people who have integration of the brain capacity and desire. It's not because it's a set in stone anything. I don't do set in stones. I'm not a dictionary. I'm not a definition. I'm not any person who's in academia with a research. That's why the pseudoscience. Okay, so on that note, what I know social media to be is social. I never have been online thinking I'm getting educated from people that are like academics. No, if I want academics, I know where to find them. If I want data, I know where to find it. So when I'm online, I'm entertained and I'm educating myself with entertainment and with different people's subjective experience. So I bring to you what can support you based on me, my own research. And again, this is why pseudoscience is a perfect label. It's just not bullshit, and it's not crap for those who do self-help and personal development seriously. Okay. Reiki Master. So we also have some universal love transmission sessions. It's a lovely little portfolio for personal development. I would love to get another round out for you. So that's in the queue of all the things. And I have some of my lovely cards with me today, but I think I'm going to wait for another episode. So right now, let me focus. Relationships. Okay, so what happens in relationships? With empowered women, we have, for me, twin flames and soulmates. And that's where the polyamory community come on over, because it's easy peasy to be us when you have the capacity to say, yes, I love more than one person in a non-conventional friendship way, and that's how I am. And you don't have to take it, but this is who I am. Being able to tell people who you are without it being a negotiation, without it being anything that's saying you're not welcome, okay, which is also easy because you can say, you mean a lot to me. And you know that you build a relationship with the people who talk to you. So if people have an inner war going on because of some unresolved trauma, we can't do anything unless they present to us what's going on. And the only way a person's going to present to you anything is if they're doing their own introspection with good psych education without judging themselves, and or good therapy. Usually I find that it's when you begin a therapeutic relationship with a good therapist, or seriously speaking with yourself, so you know how to be objective and not judgmental. So you know how to say, okay, you know what? I think I'm a love avoidant because I do XYZ I'm going to disengage from this. And if you find it challenging, you know, okay, I need a good therapist, or I need somebody who can walk me through it. Personal development can walk people through this too, because we give the same types of resourcing and exercises and activities. But I know, for example, for a person who has DID, that I would want a therapist at my side, and actually I know that I will seriously, in any time, shape, or form, if I'm having a paying client, know how to say we want somebody next to us with us because XYZ, or I might not say any of it, but the point is I will say we want somebody else to come in and support us. Why? Because consciousness barriers and memory barriers are very important to notice, and because those lovely therapists, they have that educational background. They're a lot more savvy. No, they're a lot more educated and thorough with neuroscience, neurobiology. I have a surface level of it. Okay, so here's why there is a difference between somebody who is a consultant, who supports people, a coach, life coach, holistic coach, okay, than a good EMDR, child parts work, and somatics, good therapist. Good therapists know about today's updated information. They don't box you up, and they don't give you a definition. They share with you yourself is a verb. We can work with it because that's what the updated information is finding, that we can work with your core content, with your shame, the guilt, the blame, all of it. You can work to get out of that loneliness. You can work to get out of that emptiness. You can work to get out of what is a maladaptive now as a grown-up child behavior that was taught to save, to protect, to basically calibrate it to its environment. So if you were calibrated to this regulated environment, you're going to uncalibrate, which feels weird and scary and all that and so forth. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why 5D Mystic will know, one, in our oversoul, twin flames, soulmates, our oversoul members are not to be defined as people who have secure attachment or not. So I've heard people talk about, one was like about their twin flame journey and narcissism. And I'm like, wow, okay, I'm pretty sure I know whether that's going to go, or covert narcissism. So they use words in this way that creates what I'm going to say is a dehumanized and objective talk about relationships, which I find really sad because I have a name. My name's Maria. What's your name? Okay, now I have a relationship with you so that I can understand that I am going to experience something with somebody else. If I'm wanting to talk about it in a way that's going to create a conversation, I'm not going to be using words like buzzwords, which is what I mean when I say I don't use words. So I notice when people are using buzzwords. Now, that doesn't mean their content is not interesting or helpful. No, it probably is interesting and can be helpful to some people. But I already noticed that you are defining a human being with words that are not their name, which means you're objectifying your entire relationship. Like when I hear people talking about the false twin flame, and then they talk about you having a divine and you won't end up with your twin flame, and then that there's a false divine. So it's like, okay, every time you meet someone who's not matching something, they become the opposite of. Long story short, I'm just going to say an empowered woman knows a relationship moves forward because you and I talk. And we want to talk. And you know about yourself, and I know about myself. And you're not scared to tell me who you are, and I'm not scared to tell you who I am. And I may be emotionally more vulnerable, more intense, whatever it is, but you will be emotionally vulnerable and available to anyone if you're choosing to want to build that good relationship. So, good therapists will inform you why it's dangerous. They will also inform you of why you want a healthy self worth and or more people, partner or partners. Okay, so for polyamory, of course, I'm going to say if you're a person who realizes that you do not have secure attachment, you want to get to secure attachment first, because loving more than one person in a non conventional friendship way means you're going to be having healthy conflict with one and or more of those partners, because you don't know if they have secure attachment or healthy self worth. That's the part you'll find out. Okay. And so you'll find out in the way that you can interact with each other. Long story short, I have a twin. Did I mention that? So to me, I realized recently that I should mention it more often, because I have had splinters and ruptures, are fighting like cats and dogs. This is all we've all, for my entire life. I mean, not now as a grown up, because we don't live together, but you should see us when we get together. Anybody who sees us together and in a family dynamic will notice how we get all loud and passionate and we start to do our thing. It's going to look on the outside like we're arguing and that we're dysregulated. We're not. We're just Neapolitans. And so the Southern Italian part of us comes out. And that's because we got to be around my grandparents, my maternal grandparents. And so, yeah, my grandma and grandpa, they were always yelling. And so my twin sister and I know about yelling very easily, my younger sister too. And then when the family gets together, you should hear us. I remember one of our Christmases, or was it, well, Christmas, New Year's. Anyways, every time we'd get together, they would complain, uncles, aunts, all of the cousins, about us, debating this way. And I was like, why are we complaining? This is how we do things. How about you just accept that we're loud? I'm okay with loud, but that's because I'm not a person who shies away from being loud, okay? And so that's where you. Learning how to be here, though, is really awesome if you get here, because it means that you can be passionately involved in conversations. Now, there is a difference if somebody's in their sympathetic, but I don't want to get into that. I want to keep talking about our relationships and how when you're empowered, you will know how to tell somebody how you think, tell them how you feel. It's called functional adult love language. And then you will not think that they're hiding things from you. So if you have chit chatter and an inner war going on and you catastrophize, or you get paranoid, but you don't tell me about it, or you get insecure and you don't tell me about it, I can't do anything for you. So this is the part of why a person needs to be self-reflective, self-aware, but also decide, do I want a relationship with that person? Okay, if I do, then I need to talk to them. Otherwise, I'm not going to let them know what's going on inside. And that feels scary for people who are unaware of the good doctors, therapists online. So one of them, for example, for borderline personality disorder, narcissism, anybody who wants to work well with your core content, Dr. Daniel Fox. He's from Texas. He's a licensed therapist. I've been consuming his content. It's really great. And then there's a person I introduced you to on yesterday's episode. Let me see if I still have his name. And that way you can follow him if you want, because he's actually sharing with people some really great examples of how he's worked through things. And you can tell he's doing it because he's not whining about it. He's not saying I'm always going to stay this way. He's not saying humans are fucked up. He's saying he knows he's using information and sharing how he's working through things. It's the most beautiful. Here he is. Reese Henderson is his name. And so Reece Henderson, and his handle though is Hendy. So I think it's Hendyy, the handle. So look that one up. If you can't find it, let me know and I'll share that with you. But right now I'm still finishing up his video on BPD and paranoid ideation. So he gives some examples of things. And that's where, as I was saying, in a relationship, if a person doesn't tell you what's going on, you can't build more. And if in their chit chatter stuff's going on, again, that's with them. So they have to be self-aware, self-reflective, and then note, do I want to talk to this person or not? And the reality is, if they have had a home that was dysregulated and dysfunctional, a healthy self-worth body, an empowered woman will not be attractive to that nervous system. It will be scary. and not just a little bit, because it will remind the 0 1 year old that lives within that human being of what they didn't get. Now, I know there are those who say, I find it hard to believe because they don't know about the body keeps the score and they don't believe it. So the body keeps the score and the mind keeps the count. And mind keeps the count is from a lovely therapist with a book. Let me see if I can find it. Actually, I might be able to while we're chit-chatting. And Body Keeps the Score is Bezel van der Kolk. So those are two great reads, anybody who's interested. Also to, again, be aware that what you're talking about always matters. And that's why when people think mindset doesn't mean anything, they don't really recognize that you're not going to work with your window of tolerance. You're not going to work to get expanded consciousness. You're not going to work on a lot of aspects that you could. I don't want to do personal development. That's what some people do after therapy. It's kind of sad. No, it's a lot sad because you could do something about that. But again, it has to be from the person's desire. And if they don't want to, they don't want to. And let's see if I can find. Nope, not that one. That one's Daniel. Daniel Siegel. He's really great if you want to learn about the brain and the mind and more. Okay, I'll share it maybe in our next video. But in the meantime, relationships. They don't go through any of saga or drama for my 5D mystics because we don't talk about twin flame flames, soulmates, or our oversoul in this way. We use their name. We love people. That's unconditionally. We all have flaws. We all have imperfections. And even before being attachment trauma informed, I knew, because I got taught from Jesus and God, all people are people. And I also had learned about this evil thing. I didn't see it anywhere. I just saw and still do human suffering. So when I meet a human suffering love narrative person, I'm going to give my heart. I'm going to say you're unconditionally loved. I'm going to support you, but I won't support your projection. I won't enable in the sense of if you're trying to get clingy. So people use words like that. I don't prefer to use the enable. But I have noticed that people who don't work on their human suffering, they enable each other. And really, it's not enabling. They play out the very dysregulated, dysfunctional dynamic that they're used to, their unfinished business from home, because they don't go and get tended to by their self and get that 0 1 year old secure attached. So as long as you're subject to your own not secure attachment and not awareness of it, you're not going to notice. There's no drama or saga. There's no need for our mean girls hangover, the Pinocchios walking around, the drinking, the fucking, the drugging, the calling people names and doing storytelling time. There's a simple equation. Love who you are, just the way you are, doesn't mean being an asshole to another person. It means that I have an open heart and know you are you and I'm me, and that you and I can chit chat. You might not like me. Now, the way you handle not liking me, that will share with me where you are at with how worthy you feel and not, and so on and so forth. Okay, so when you notice that a person is able to not take things personally, the most amazing of relationships, that's when you're going to have met and begin a relationship with an empowered person. You will notice that they don't get spiky, they don't get feisty, they don't start fighting. No. They continue to engage, and then you're tangoing away. Okay, and so again, relationships are built, one, by us choosing what do we want to build together. Do we want a secure connection or a secure attachment relationship? And those are different. What do we want to share in life? And 3, we have to talk about what we're thinking and feeling. Otherwise, we're not building anything. And intimacy, for those of us who are empowered, are easy things to do. It's not easy for the person who has the not intimate relationship. So it's once they have enough space to notice my chit chatter, my emotions, they affect me. Okay, I'm going to pause them and share them with somebody. And that's obvious, again, with good background of psych education, at the very least, somebody will notice how they're showing up. And with the knowingness that the core content is not a bad thing. Shame is not some enemy of yours. Shame helped a person. And really what it is, it came out and comes forth the way they explain it because of that. And see, that's why I understand when people say, I don't believe in it. I don't believe in what you're sharing because it sounds like Reiki. And I don't even like the word shame, but that's what they call it. They say the shame cycle. So we can call it a negative cycle. We can call it a maladaptive cycle. But the point of shame is that you feel defective here. And shame has a best friend, like Dr. Daniel Fox says, and it's called guilt. And then there's the inner war. The family in the head is what Dr. Daniel calls them. And that's the people who criticized you. And that's where your verbal didn't come from you, it comes from your home, which is why if anybody stopped to think about divine counterparts or whatnot and looked at their home, they're like, oh, wait a minute, my 0 1 year old needs me. Oh, I'm going to come here. It's okay. Use your name. Okay. So when you know, it's okay. I'm flawed. I'm imperfect. I'm not going to feel guilty or ashamed about being me. I'm Maria. Who are you? I can talk to you about anything. Can you? And so come on over if you like to talk about everything and anything. We don't do eggshells over here. We don't do the people who say, you can't say that word. Okay, bye. You can't, no, we can say, you know what? Are you the law? I'm going to go look at the law because you are just some person. And so you're a person that is not even, I didn't choose to have you as part of my herd. You're not my Diego Manny and Sid. I get to choose the relationships I want to build. Okay, so IHP1 is for people who don't wear mantles of mental health or mantles of yoga or any mantle for that matter. We're all flawed. We're all imperfect. Nobody needs to be filtering to the extent that we've seen so far. Thank goodness we have adults coming out of the woodworks. They're like, okay, we think that teenagers have had a long, nice run on YouTube, on TikTok, everywhere, all the social media platforms. I think it's time for actual people to get online, and that's what we're seeing. It's really nice. So come on over. Again, relationships, we build them together consistently by deciding together what we want to bring to each other, what we don't, being able to be open and knowing that nobody needs to be ashamed of being their self, that we're all here as imperfectly imperfect children who can emotionally grow up and then be imperfectly perfect for each other. And that's the beauty of the relationships that we get to build here at IHP and with the personal development and self-help. So emotional accountability, awareness, and self-regulation. You desire to tap into your infinite higher human conscious potential experience. Mystics or not, please don't tease us too much, but we do understand sciences. For me, it prevails because I know of good academics and researchers, but also because they are the ones who can keep us moving forward, and I care about future generations. And it also is not something that to me equals not part of our species. That's the part that's an inconsistency. I have a brain, you have a brain. I have imagination, you have imagination. As Patrick McNamara points out in The Religious Self, our ancestors, we expanded this thanks to REM that seeps out in the night or whatever it is, however he poses it. I had a very good way to explain it, but my memory doesn't always keep all of the data points connected and collected. But basically, REM creates the environment for disparate ideas to come together. And that's why we can create some things. Obviously, the ones of us who have good chit chatter, we're open to the future. The ones who have nightmares, they're not. So they're creating other things, which is why 4D, 3D, they stick around for reasons. And I do know life always supports itself to expand to more. Sciences and technology is not an absence of being a part of our humanity. We think things, we create things, we move forward. The ones who want ancient stories, well, they're ancient for a reason, and yesterday doesn't work to keep on bringing it forth in a specific way. But what I want to really hone in on as we close out is the capacity for a person to give me all of history and ancient times and then not to take what we're learning with sciences and technology as something just as equally valuable, but to tell me that it's a bad thing because it's messing with the whole messing with. And there's that illusion again of separation. Now we do want to balance that part. We know, yes, like our environment. How many people, they don't think environment needs us because they don't see what the people predict in the future. Of course our environment needs us. It's, to me, math. If I'm a globe and I can go and get some very specific data points, I can know without getting agitated or angry or upset or anxiety and all that, even though, of course we're going to be afraid of things. But what I'm saying is the people, mathematically speaking, can notice, we can do something to bring our ecosystem back into balance because there are some imbalances. It's the charge behind it that distorts the message. And then it's the groups that are on opposing ends that also don't come together. So if you look at the globe as whole, you look as a species as whole, sciences, spirituality, they come together. And actually, again, sciences dispels the myths. There's no demon that comes out of a body of a person. They have a brain with a fear receptor. Thank you, Patrick McNamara. So when their decentralization of the self is happening and they're having nightmares, their brain's trying to heal itself from trauma charges and memory. And nightmare after nightmare after nightmare, eventually something breaks. But also, I learned about consciousness barriers and memory barriers from people who have dissociative identity disorder, which is actually, hopefully, at some point, they're going to change that disorder to something different because it's a poor infant, 0 1 year old, and then a 2 and a 3 year old who wasn't given the capacity to be in a body that had a safe environment. It's called dysregulation. It's called too much to withstand, and your body needed to short. It was like a short circuit, too much. So the part about education, when you learn it, it's not a story. I might not say it well. That's why I'm pseudoscience lady, and I might be integrating a bunch of shit, but it ain't shit. So if you want to hear what you want to hear, there's plenty of people that hear what they want to hear and they take away nothing. And there's the ones who really hear and they take away all of it. And that's where we can support each other as we have been doing our entire species and not actually go to some random story just because we don't have answers to everything. No, we don't. There's a reason for it. Some of us are okay with not questioning it, and we're okay with working with our 2 hands and our 2 feet and to try and stay as rational as we can be and in a body and that safe environment. And so to be able to master that mental, emotional, and physical stuff, by the way, for my 5D mystics, that's one of the things I learned as a self-taught Akashic record reader. We come here to master all that. You'll know where you're at if you're divine feminine, FYI. So again, relationships. We build with people who want to build with us, and that's because we can be our safe haven. This is activating your ventral vagal nervous system. It's a great resource, anybody who needs it. And we can be secure base. So we share time, we share comfort, support. We know how to, make compromises in a good way. That's called conversing, not changing each other. No, just supporting each other, because every one of you has an inner child that is waiting to come out. Once you're an integrated brain and are working your way towards integration, you get out of the maladaptive child behavior. You learn how to be at ease in time. That trauma memory, it's not deletable, but it is minimizable. And then you creating safe relationships with secure attachment people, because you take ownership, though, also of your moods and of that catastrophizing thinking and whatever that is. And so talking, not saying you have to accept that I'm always going to be this way. Always. The always is split thinking, and that's a teenager's attitude. It will never be different. Yourself is a verb. You can consistently work to soften those thoughts and those feelings if you want. You don't have to. So the ones of us who like to expand consciousness, we work to expand together and we grow our relationships. And I look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions for food for thought conversations, just email me. If you have specific questions for yourself, it's like a Dear Abby. So it's a columnist, Ask Maria, opinionated episode that you would want. You can subscribe to the audio podcast versions. They're on all platforms. There's in the description a link, though, because it's on Spotify for podcasters. And it's on Spotify. It's also on iHeartRadio and Amazon Music, Apple, bunch like 11 of them, okay? And then YouTube, once we get to 1K, we'll have it as membership option here. And then there's a lot more. So just ask away. My email, you'll find it easily. Like, subscribe, share. That way we can have the channel grow. And obviously, again, anything that I may support you with, please reach out. I'm happy to be here. And again, have a great one.